joining with the Upper Riverside Residents Alliance to call on the Landmarks Preservation Commission and Chair Sarah Carroll to grant the application for 857 Riverside Drive. They need a hearing, a real hearing, to truly evaluate the historical and cultural significance of this building. Yes, not all of its original architecture may be intact, but that's not the only reason that the Landmarks Preservation Commission should reconsider. Insisting on narrow guidelines for what is and what is not significant is highly charged and, in my opinion, biased.
This is the only place north of 29th Street that existed at its time. And why is it that only downtown gets to have what they pick and choose that they want to preserve? This landmark would be unique in Upper Manhattan. Let's use this opportunity to educate how we can preserve our history and pass it on.
We need to continue educating our communities and the future generation about the historic impact. This building needs to stay here. As a community resident, we don't need to have a certain story, a condominium, high-rise here in our midst.
This building is a treasure.
Yes.
This is the only building like it within a mile. Recently, LPC has actually taken courageous steps. They have heard 227 Duffield Street, an abolitionist house downtown Brooklyn, that is equally altered. And yet they are willing to preserve that building and consider it. The Hopper Gibbons house that some of my colleagues here have worked on 29th Street, that also were heavily altered, yet because of their cultural meaning, have been preserved, have been protected, and hopefully will have the opportunity to be restored. There is an invisible history of abolitionism. There's an invisible history of people fighting against the evil of human slavery. And because it was against the law, it's hard to see. This house is a window into that invisible world. Once this building is gone, it will be gone forever. This community.
What is going to be the currency of the day? In 1851, 100 years before I was born, the currency of the day, my parents could be on the auction block and be for sale under the currency of the day. And now the currency of the day is development. And just like my ancestors in 1851, this house of 1851 is back on the auction block. But the African-American engagement in American history is complicated, it's fascinating, and it takes a little more scholarship and a little more backbone than the Landmarks Commission is showing for this house.
Once it's gone, it's gone. Yes. Who's going to tell the story? Historians will tell the story, but we don't have the physical structures to identify, to come visit, to know that during slavery time, this was used as part of the Underground Railroad. We know what real estate does in New York City. People will say, well, real estate owns New York City. We are here to say they don't.
Yes, right.
This was the home of an abolitionist community that has been long forgotten, but should be celebrated and uplifted. We are asking to honor that heritage, and we are asking for our city's building codes to be adhered to, the law to be adhered to. The building codes clearly state, section 23692, that buildings should not be taller than the surrounding structures or the width of the street. What's being proposed here is a clear violation. We are demanding that the Audubon Park Historic District be expanded to encompass the full area, this block and its historic structures. 158th Street down the hill with a dozen row houses that are, you can applaud for that. Structures that are unique, that tell our history, that are part of the fabric of this neighborhood, that are vulnerable. They're vulnerable to developers. We're standing up for history. We're standing up for smart planning. We want this house preserved.
Now, if you are rich, if you are white, and your communities like Greenwich Village, 2/3 of the buildings are protected by landmarks. But in African American and communities of color throughout New York, only tiny fractions of buildings are protected. This is wrong because our history, our heritage, our culture is valuable too. And the excuses of a building being changed are belied by the reality of the fact that the Hamilton Grange was altered, was moved twice, but it was landmarked. So the Landmarks Preservation Commission, who are about to embark on this big campaign with the beginning of Black History Month, where they're going to tell us what wonderful things they are doing to preserve landmarks of people of color, they are doing a snow job. Because what they are giving with one hand, they are taking away with another. And we are going to make sure, with the support of our elected officials, that we are going to change this, and we are going to preserve the heritage of all New Yorkers from here on out. Thank you.
Yes.